Howdy, this is Mackenzie Franklin from SideGame LLC here in Colorado Springs, Colorado. And today we're going to be talking about my top 10 board games from the year 2015. Now, 2015 is the year that I actually got my first board game. I went to the store and purchased it. It was Seven Wonders and followed closely by King of Tokyo and some other games, so some of these awesome, welcoming games. Now, my number 10 goes to the game Fuse. Now, Fuse is a real-time cooperative game where you play as a bomb squad. It's your job to do the best you can in 10 minutes to defuse all of the bombs. Now, the way you do this is through a dexterity challenges plus puzzles. So you have these cards that have criteria, and on your turn you'll pick up all the dice from the bag, roll them out, and then everybody takes one, and hopefully everybody gets to take one, because if you don't, one gets unchosen, then everyone takes a penalty, so it kind of stinks. But you'll use these dice for different things. Like this one here, you need specific numbers to make a number. This one, you have to make a pyramid starting at the bottom and stacking at the top. This one here, you have to be descending as you stack on top of each other. So there's all these little mini games going on at the same time, so you have to communicate to the other players at the table what specific dice you may need. I really like the challenge system here, and my favorite part about this game is the actual challenges themselves and the challenge rating. I love that each of these has a difficulty level. So this one's difficulty 4, this one's 2. I like that maybe you can prioritize some smaller challenges first, or you could take a really heavy challenge and then easy ones to try to make sure you're consistently working on that. Because eventually you're going to need to defuse all the bombs, so it might behoove you to take some of those harder challenges early so that you can start working on them and get them finished. Now, this is a fantastic little game. My favorite way of doing real time is through the cooperative fashion. I think it's a lot of good tension, a lot of fun. That's my number 10, Fuse. My number 9 goes to the game Catacombs 3rd Edition. Now, this is a dexterity flicking game where you're going to be playing as heroes going against an overlord player who plays as the villains. Now, each round you're going to be going from room to room, and the overlord player is going to populate the room with all these monsters, and you as heroes are going to flick yourselves, flick projectiles, and try to take out all of the monsters in the room. And eventually get to the end where you'll fight a boss room and take out the boss and win the game. So that's the goal. Now, this game's mechanics are super fun. I love that you have these projectiles that really translate well into the gameplay. If you want to fire a fireball, put a fireball on the board and flick it. If you need to take cover, get behind one of the big barriers. Literally push yourself there. If you want to go in and punch somebody, push your dude into someone and punch them. Now, my favorite part about this game has to be the uniqueness of the enemies. I love that there are some enemies that are like spirits and you actually have to punch them off the plane of existence. I love that. I love that there are customizable spells for the heroes, but really the best one has to be the antient spells. So that's my favorite part of this game is you can use these once per game spells called summon antients, and they summon these giant beasts to the board. And when you do so, you get to use them immediately and they do something crazy. However, you've summoned a giant demon to the plane, right? It's not just yours. Every time it's the enemy's turn, it's going to attack you as well. So every round, this demon, you both get to control it. So I really like this system. I like how you're summoning this wild card. It's like this last resort, like, oh, help me. So fun. I love it. That's my number 9, Catacombs 3rd Edition. My number 8 goes to the game Zombicide Black Plague. Now, this is a game where you play as a bunch of heroes in the Middle Age, and you're doing your best to stop the oncoming zombie horde. So the Black Plague actually turned out to be a zombie virus. Now, this infuses some fantasy into the medieval setting. So there's magic, and with expansions, there's things like werewolves and orcs and whatnot. But the core of this game is you are going to have heroes, you move around a board, and you kill zombies. Every time you kill a zombie, you increase your little kill counter, and then the higher up your kill counter is, the more abilities you have, but the more zombies that get spawned. So it's got this ebb and flow. Now this one gets really intense as things go on, and my favorite thing about this game has to be the unique zombies. In particular, I really like the necromancers in this game. The necromancers are very fragile zombies, however, they carry spawn points with them. So generally you're only going to spawn to these little red zones here, but if there's a necromancer on the board, they actually carry a spawn point with them, so they're summoning more zombies, so they become a very high priority target. Zombicide Black Plague is extremely challenging, but it did a lot of things that really opened up the Zombicide franchise. It added a nice streamlined setting to it. It added these really nice player dashboards, and I also think the theme works really well. It has some great characters, some great abilities, a lot of fun to be had here in this fun dice chucking game. That's my number 8, Zombicide Black Plague. My number 7 is going to go to the game Food Chain Magnate. Food Chain Magnate has you playing as the owner of a chain of restaurants, and it's your job to make as much money as possible by hiring appropriate people and chasing after milestones. Now, this game is extremely fancy when it comes to gameplay. The art is a little hit or miss for some people. I really like the art style. It very much reminds me of the diners aesthetic, and I love that here. But the big thing I want to talk about here, and my favorite part of the whole game, is the milestones mechanic. So when you do one of these things, so for example, if you're the first person to play a cart operator or first person to play an errand boy, you get one of these permanent abilities. And then once they're done at the end of that round, no one else will ever get them. So it's first come, first serve on these. However, if multiple people scored at the same time, everybody who did it in that same round gets that effect. So it has this really interesting tension where the first person to go for one of these specific milestones is going to set the course of the game for everybody else. So everyone has to decide right there, they've gone for this first errand boy played milestone. Do I change my strategy so that I can try to get that as well? Or do I make my decision here, say I'm never going to get that, but now I'll do something else and maybe cut them off for something else? Maybe they're playing their errand boy. Maybe I go ahead and grab my marketeer so that I can start marketing pizza first before anybody else. I really like this system, and I really like how that decision is there from the beginning and you have to make it, and it's super impactful because it follows you the whole game. I really like that the catch-up mechanism involves new milestones. You can change up things. I like the player interaction in this game. It's very high, and I like the simplicity of the action system where you have all of these different character cards, and those character cards will basically allow you to do the different actions. So I really like the system here. It's a very cutthroat game in nature, but a lot of fun, highly interactive. That's my number 7, Food Chain Magnet. My number 6 is going to go to the game Arboretum. Now, Arboretum has you playing as owners of an arboretum. It's your job to collect trees and plant them face down in front of you. The whole goal of the game is you're trying to make a connecting row of numbers that are consecutively getting bigger. So for example, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Boom. So you could do something like that. Or as you can see up here, you could even start 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. As long as you are connecting and you're starting with the same color and ending with the same color. So there's some interesting choices here when you're playing your Arboretum because you can use colors from different spots to help you out with this. So for example, this 1 here and this 8 here, because there's a 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in between them, you're still able to draw a line from them and you score a point for each card in that row. You also score extra if you've got the 1 and the 8. So this is actually extremely good. This player did an awesome job. Now, my favorite part about this game though is actually how you score your trees. So at the end of the game, yes, you may have this amazing Arboretum in front of you, but you need to have the cards in your hand to back it up. So on your turn, you're going to have all of these cards in your hand. You have 7 cards, but your cards in your hand determine what you score. So for example, this person here, has a lot of these purple trees in front of them, and if they want to score them, they actually have to hold the rest of the purple cards in their hand and more than the other players. If somebody else had a purple card and this player had none, they don't get to score any of those purple trees, even though they played so many of them. So you have that decision where you have to say, is it worth holding these cards to ensure I score, or do I try to milk as many points as I can out of my trees? Which sounds kind of funny when you say it, but it's a great game with lots of awesome decisions. I really like this one. That's Arboretum. Now, number 5 goes to the game Seven Wonders Duel, a wonderful rendition of the Seven Wonders base game, but with a very interesting form of drafting that reminds me of Mahjong. You play as leaders of a civilization, doing your best to build an amazing infrastructure and hopefully build these wonders of the world to either win via victory points, military, or science. Now, my favorite part of this game has to be the alternate win conditions. So there are 2 different ways that you can win instantly in the base game. The first way is through military. You have the shield token that you're going to be moving up or down every time you get a shield symbol. If you get it all the way to the end, you just win straight out, which is pretty incredible. I love that about this, that there's that tension and that constant awareness of, ooh, I can't let him get 2 shields, so I have to invest a little bit in that, because otherwise you just get swept. And I also like that some of these progress tokens here can affect that military track and make it a bit more viable from game to game. The other way that you can instantly win is with these science cards. If you have all of the different science symbols, you just win, and I think that's also really cool. In addition, though, if you get doubles of the science symbols, you get these progress tokens, which give you superpowers. Now, I love this concept. I love this mechanic. I love the anticipation and the fear of the potential gathering of these symbols and the military strength. It really adds a great twist to the game, and I think it opens up a lot of space with kind of the cards that you can add and generate. So there's one of the special symbols that you can get from these progress tokens is like an additional science symbol, so it counts as one of the ones that you need to automatically win. Or some of these symbols will allow you to move extra when you move on the military check. So I really like the way that they cross here, and this is a fantastic 2-player game. So that's my number 5, Seven Wonders Duel. Now, my number 4 goes to the game Pandemic Legacy Season 1. I'm going to keep this brief. Has you playing a game of Pandemic, but things will constantly change and evolve. You're going to be stickering things to the board as you play, and it's a one-time game. You'll play it once, you'll destroy components, you'll update things with stickers, you'll draw on the board, things will happen while you play the game, and that's where I'm going to leave it. If you enjoy the Pandemic system of fighting diseases across the world, doing your best to work with your friends in order to do so, I think that you would really enjoy this one. It's a fantastic experience. I played this with my wife, and we had an absolute ball, but once again, this is one where once you have that group, that's who you're playing it with, and then you're going to complete this to the end. You're going to be playing a lot of Pandemic, so make sure that you enjoy the system before you commit and dive into something like this. And my favorite part about this game is, so that's my number 4, Pandemic Legacy Season 1. My number 3 is going to go to the game Time Stories. Now, Time Stories has you playing as time agents, going back in time to fix problems that will eventually cause rips in the time stream. So it's a really interesting concept with a lot of potential. You can go back into different time periods and even different dimensions and see kind of what different things may happen. It's so fascinating, it has a lot of cool scenarios, decisions, choices. Once again, this is also a very heavy spoilery game, so I'm not going to go into too much detail here. I'm going to show you the rulebook though, and from the game, and kind of show you the things that you'll see just when you open up the game. So the first one is called Asylum. You're going to be sent back in time, and you'll start in this insane asylum. You have these giant panorama cards that will be basically locations that you can visit, a map where you can change these panoramas and go to different places, and then these receptacles that you can use and you'll inhabit their body. And that's one of my favorite parts about this game, are the receptacles. Each time you go, the way that time travel works in this game is they don't send your physical body back, they send your consciousness. And so your consciousness goes into one of these characters. So when you go back into their bodies, you're going to get all of their negative and positive attributes. So there's really cool things to consider and things that you may want to keep in mind as you play. There's a lot of cool puzzles, a lot of cool, thematic choices here. It's just a blast. I really like the theming on this one, and this core box is fantastic. You need this one in order to play any of the other modules, but if you check on this channel, if you are interested in any spoiler content, I have a list of all of the scenarios ranked, so I'll put a link to that in the description if you'd like to go check that out. So that is my number 3, Time Stories. My number 2 goes to the game Kingdom Death Monster. Now, Kingdom Death Monster is a huge campaign game where you play as a bunch of survivors doing your best to fight off the darkness. The darkness being the actual darkness. This world has no light aside from your lanterns. So you're doing your best in order to traverse the dark paths, survive, bring back kills from your hunts, and then do your best to innovate and create things to survive and push further into this terrible disaster you found yourself in. Now, the game itself features these gigantic miniatures, and it's a boss battling style game. You'll have these giant creatures that you're going to go hunt, and when you hunt them, you skin their bodies for all their materials and bring them back home. It's a very gruesome setting, but one of my favorite parts of this game has to be the artworks and the event system. So a lot of times you're going to do what are called story events, and that could be triggered from just playing the game. It might happen at certain times, from achieving certain objectives, or by using items, and each of these story events is beautifully illustrated. I love the artwork in this game. I love the different shades and colors. This is one of my favorite artworks, just period. I love the different ways that each of the monsters is so well represented. It's so cool that they take this dark, mysterious, creepy world, but they bring in such cool features with the art style. So I really like this game. That's my number 2, Kingdom Death Monster. My number 1 is going to go to the game Blood Rage. Now, Blood Rage is a game that I absolutely adore. I just put a video on the channel about 5 reasons that I love Blood Rage. 10 out of 10 area control game for me. This one is so fun. You play as a Viking clan during Ragnarok. The world is ending, and you're doing your best to secure your place in Valhalla and finish with the most glory over every other player. And this is done through area control, combat, and clever card drafting. Now, each round you're drafting cards, you're using those in the following round, and during that round you have tense decisions in a short amount of time, because on your turn you only get to do one thing, so you have to be very careful with what you're doing. The battles are quick, the gameplay is quick, the gameplay is satisfying and it is so fun looking for combos and seeing how they unfold. So I really like this style. Now, one thing that I haven't talked about in this game is the boat system. So I really like in this game how there are these fjords that join two connecting areas. Now, a very minor mechanic in here, but I really like it. It makes a lot of sense. There are some characters that count as ships. So like this sea serpent here, you could put him in the water and they count as being in both those areas, which is awesome because he's pretty dang powerful. There are also some really cool cards that can increase the abilities of your ships. I really like this system and I love the fjords. I love just having presence in multiple areas. It's risky but also powerful, and I really enjoy this. So a lot of things to love about Blood Rage. Once again, go check out that other video if you really want to know all the reasons I like it, but fantastic game. That's my number one, Blood Rage. And that's my list. Those are the top 10 board games from 2015, the ones that I really enjoy. What a fantastic year for gaming. Some amazing titles and ones that I still have memories, very fond memories of those experiences. So I'm curious, what games did you play from 2015? Do you agree with anything on my list? Are these ones that you would consider the best? I'd love to hear your thoughts. But thank you so much for watching SideGame Strong.